All right. Hi, Terry.
Good day, Darcy.
Hi, it's Darcy the Rock and Terry Osty, and you are listening to the Agent Tech Mastery podcast that revolutionizes the real estate business. I have almost 3 decades in information technology, and Terry has been an agent for almost 2 decades. We are your guides to streamlining operations, saving time, and boosting your revenue. Discover cutting edge technology, systems and apps, and a mindset for profitable and integrated business. If you want to know how to get there, you're in the right place. And the topic is really going to be something Terry's going to really talk about this whole time for this podcast. And I think he's an expert in it because Terry has been teaching about home construction and tell everyone what you teach because you teach a lot of courses.
Yeah, I teach
Agent.
actually 5 courses. So for anybody that doesn't know where we are, we're in British Columbia, Canada. So our province is broken up into a number of different organizations across the province. So we have a group called the British Columbia Real Estate Association, which is an independent group that works with all the different boards across the province. And so they provide education to everybody in British Columbia. So I teach 2 courses with the BC REA, and it's called Know Your Product,
Yep.
House Structures and House Systems. And then I also work with the Greater Vancouver Realtors, which is the organization on the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. And I work on 3 courses there. There's one called the Homeowner Protection Act, which is a body of legislation that we have here. And I also teach hazards of older homes.
Ah,
And I also teach, there's a program that we have called the Data Input Sheet and how to maximize the information that you're putting into your listings to benefit your product that you're selling. So 5 courses
so
altogether.
that's awesome. And today we're going to be talking about
Homes
homes and
and hazards.
hazards.
Yeah,
Homes and hazards. That's a good subject for a podcast. Homes and hazards.
Uh,
So I think that what is really interesting and unique about this industry is that people don't, like when you get your license, they don't teach you this stuff, right?
there's one chapter on construction, and that
Yeah,
so there's not a lot of questions on the exam. Our licensing exam here deals primarily with mortgage calculations, financial calculations, and there's a big chunk of it
makes
which
no sense.
doesn't make any sense. But
That should totally be redone
uh,
because it's kind of like what's it? You're always so good with analogies. It's kind of like working at a car dealership and not understanding anything about the car.
yeah, no, for sure. Because imagine going into a car dealership and you're talking to the person there that represents the company and the brand, and you say, "I really like this car. Um, does it have a 4-cylinder, a 6-cylinder, or 8-cylinder engine under the hood?" And they kind of look at you and go, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, hang on.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
fundamental information about being a car salesperson, right?
Right. And I think that it's really great that you've been teaching this course. Now, of course, we're going to talk about, I'm going to just bring up my notes because this is not my forte. Terry is definitely an expert on this, and I had it up here. I was going to go grab it. Okay. So I don't know how we want to, so we want to talk about all the things that agents should know about a home.
Okay, so yeah, I'll get it started. Well,
Okay.
we're only going to talk about detached homes at the moment
Okay.
because attached is a whole other animal, uh,
Right.
like high rises and all that kind of stuff. So we're just gonna talk detached homes,
Okay.
single family homes.
Okay.
So,
And before you get started, sorry, Terry,
yeah,
we have agents listening all across North America. So is a lot of this is relevant for someone in North Carolina
yeah,
as it is
totally.
in? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
let's
totally.
get started then.
So everybody, doesn't matter where you live. There is a body of legislation and information regarding how you are to build properties in your city or your township or wherever you live, right?
Right. Yep.
So in British Columbia, we have something called the BC Building Code.
Yep.
It's a book about this thick,
Go
and it's
ahead.
all about what the minimum standards are for building in British Columbia. However, most homes are built kind of the same. They have to, you have a piece of dirt. So either you're digging a hole and pouring concrete for a basement or what have you, or maybe you're pouring concrete without a basement, it's just a slab on grade, like a big chunk of concrete. The bottom line is that you need something to support the house, the foundation, right?
Yeah.
That comes in all different shapes and sizes and depths and all kinds of stuff. But typically it's concrete, might be block, it might be even, we have actually wood foundations in some areas in British Columbia as well, which is
Sorry, and I'm going to be the dummy here because I am
okay.
not a real estate agent, and I'm
Sure.
not a builder. What's a block?
I have like pre-made blocks in a factory, like
A
brick.
cement?
Yeah, they're cement blocks.
Oh, cement blocks. Okay. Okay.
They just stack them and build the foundation that way. So, but the bottom line is you need something to support the house. So the foundation is the critical point of the house. It's the bottom of the structure. And once that's in place, then you start building the walls. And typically they're made out of wood, like pieces of wood. And we here in British Columbia, the standard is a 2x6, which is inch and a half by 5.5 piece of wood. And you stick frame the walls together. You put some plywood or oriented strand board on the outside.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry. He's saying words I don't know. What's that other thing you just said?
so sheets of plywood or oriented strand board. So they're
Oriented strand board.
yeah,
What's that?
pieces of wood, like a plywood, just like it says, is pieces of thin wood sandwiched together.
Okay.
Oriented strand board are chips of wood, like pieces of wood sandwiched together as well, but it's not nice veneer pieces of wood sandwiched together.
Does
It's
it
an
matter?
no, you can use either one.
Okay. Is one cheaper?
OSB is a little bit cheaper here in BC than plywood.
What's OSB?
Oriented strand board.
Oh, that's what you just said. See,
Yeah,
I'm already learning. Okay. OSB is
OSB.
oriented strand board.
So
No
when we
quiz.
built our house, we used OSB on the outside
Okay.
for the sheathing. Okay. So
Okay.
then you put the roof on, which is usually a pre-made truss in the factory. So a truss is a wood supporting structure, and then once that's framed in, then you can actually start putting all the systems into the house, like the wires, the plumbing, the drain pipes,
Mm-hmm.
radon systems, the ventilation, like air conditioning um, and the furnace goes in, et cetera, et cetera. So when we teach this course, when we teach these courses, we have two courses because one's about the structure, like
Yeah.
building the structure of the house, and then the other course is now we need to put in all the systems, like I said, the wiring, the plumbing, and all that kind of stuff. So then the systems go in, and then it gets buttoned up. We put the gyprock on the inside, we put the cladding on the outside, whether it's stucco or brick or wood or whatever. Put
Yeah.
the, well, the doors and windows go in during the framing portion of it,
Yeah.
and then the house is built.
And do a blow test. I remember the blow test.
Yeah, the new one is yeah. We have a thing called step code here in British Columbia, and the government wants us to get to net zero energy efficiencies for homes, new homes in British Columbia by 2032. They want to get to net zero, so that means no more fossil fuel burning furnaces like we have. It's all going to be heat pumps,
Yeah.
right? Triple glazed windows, all that kind of stuff. So
Heavy. Those are heavy.
yeah, those are if you have big windows, triple glazed, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So that's what they're going in British Columbia, the step code. They want to become energy efficient and blah blah blah, right? So,
Okay.
but that's the new builds. But we have a ton of inventory that's old, right?
And everyone would. So
Right?
when you're talking hazards,
Yeah,
so so whether it was built 100 years ago or yesterday, there's this, that's the structure.
yeah,
And then there's probably more hazards because they didn't pay attention before or know about
yeah. They
certain
use
things.
different techniques and they use different materials back in the day.
Yeah.
And asbestos, for example, was one of those materials.
Oh, we're going to talk asbestos. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. And so asbestos is that foamy kind of stuff,
no, it's fibers. It's
fibrous, it's itchy.
well, it'll kill you
Yeah,
actually.
you don't want to touch asbestos.
I know you don't want to. That's fiberglass insulation. I think you probably.
Oh, okay. Asbestos is when you breathe in, then you get sick.
Well, what happens is the fibers are so small. Like remember when we had COVID, you had those N95 masks.
Yeah.
If you had an N95 mask and you were exposed to asbestos, the fibers would get through that mask.
Whoa.
Okay, so they
But
have.
not COVID. It knows not to go in there.
I'm assuming it stops the COVID virus.
So when they do the asbestos cleaning, they have to be fully kitted out then with like safety gear and
Oh yeah,
breathing. masks and
So, so when it's called asbestos abatement, the removal of asbestos,
yeah.
in British Columbia, what you have to do is you have to contain the area and put negative air pressure in there, and then the people that are going in there will be fully suited up,
Hmm.
proper respiratory protection, like the masks. There's special
Wow.
for asbestos.
Yeah.
There's a clean side and dirty side. There's a whole process to removing asbestos. You just don't get your scraper and go scrape it out.
And is that what most homes and office buildings were made of asbestos at
Well,
a
they had
certain,
yeah, they had the fibers in different products, like the floor tiles, the stucco on the outside. They use it as insulation on pipes and such. So it was everywhere inside the gyprock.
and
Uh,
then they didn't realize it was a bad thing until people started dying.
yeah, it took a long time because when you breathe these fibers in, you can imagine they kind of like a little bit of a fish hook and it pokes
Slow.
right, and then it goes
Yeah.
around it. So
Ugh.
a little bit of time to for that to
Okay,
happen.
asbestos, remove the asbestos from your home because it's slowly killing you.
Only if the fibers are airborne.
So how do you find that out?
What you do is you would test the different products. Like for example, if you had a house that was back in the 60s,
Hmm.
70s, somewhere, like, don't quote me on these years because there's so many variables in there. But let's say you had an older house and you're going to do some work on it. Before you pull that drip rock off and scrape up that tile, you probably want to get that product tested to see what's inside of it.
Right. And so would most contractors know to do
Oh yeah,
whoever's doing the reno work, they would know like, okay, before I touch this,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they don't want
like
to.
you as a homeowner, if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it
No, you should be
because you're
talking to
just,
some professionals for sure.
yeah,
I know
okay.
for sure that people just go, oh, I'm just rip these tiles up in like this 1950s or 60s house, and there's a pretty good chance those tiles might have, asbestos in them, right? So
Uh,
you don't want to be disturbing it. So
yeah,
uh,
okay. Ugh.
I'm not an asbestos expert. I'm just quoting stuff that I've, heard of and talked to and been chatting with people. So don't take my word for it. Always, always, always ask a professional
Yeah.
who's in the industry, who is regarded as a professional that way.
So can I go back? So when you are talking about like let's say I have a house and it's I don't know, built in the 60s.
Uh,
And people like to do their own home repairs. They might not even think about asbestos.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you're saying I'd have to be careful with tiles and walls?
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Wow, okay.
insulating product as well. I'll give you an example. One of the reasons I know a little bit about asbestos is because I was working with a company where we actually built the containment. We built the environment for these people to work in.
Yeah, right. The people to remove the asbestos.
Yeah, so we built the containment. And we turned over the site to the other group to remove it.
Ah, okay.
So one of the projects we did was in Vancouver. It was a bunch of heritage homes in behind St. Paul's Hospital, and the plaster, the stucco on the outside, full of asbestos.
Wow.
So we had to actually wrap these houses, like the whole
So
house.
nothing gets out once they start moving.
Yeah. So once they put the negative air on there, and then they do the clean and
Mm,
dirty rooms, and so the people go in there with their full gear on. When they start disturbing this product, they didn't want it to be airborne in the neighborhood, right?
wow, okay.
So that was a big job.
Yeah,
The and we've done it on buildings. There's all like there was so much asbestos used back in the day. So just Google it and you'll see.
yeah. But an agent wouldn't know when you walk into a home, they're not going to know.
Oh
But they
yeah,
should know,
yeah,
what they should know is that this era of homes typically
could have
would
asbestos.
have asbestos.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there, and sometimes like some of the insulating products used on pipes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Visually, you could use Google insulating asbestos insulating products for older homes, and you'll
yeah.
see images of some of those products. So you'll be able to see um, those products in there. So again, we're not licensed for this kind of stuff. We're not product experts, but
No, but you should know.
we need an awareness of some of the hazardous
Yeah.
products that are in these homes. And another
Okay.
big is vermiculite insulation.
Vermiculite.
Yeah, this really soft, goldy, flaky kind of insulation that they used to use. And in
Yep.
British Columbia, we treat it as a product that has asbestos in it. We just assume that it has it until it's tested. More than likely it does.
Okay.
It's called an assumed product. So whenever we see this vermiculite stuff, um, we assume it has asbestos in it. So don't touch it. And
Okay, friends, stay away from
vermiculite.
vermiculite.
So when I was a kid growing up in Kelowna, the Central Elementary School, they built a new gymnasium there, and
Yeah,
they use those blocks that I was talking about for the foundation. They use those for the walls. And in those blocks, they have two spaces that are hollow. And when you stack them on top of each other, they create these long tubes of hollowness in those blocks. So they fill those with vermiculite for insulating those walls.
no, that's not good.
So somehow, somewhere along the way, somebody punched a hole in one of the blocks, and
Yeah.
this old, shiny, flaky stuff came out, and we all played with it. It was like, this is the coolest stuff ever, right? So more than likely, there was asbestos in that back in the day.
Oh, goodness,
I
you're
know,
okay.
right? But fortunately, I've had my lungs scanned, so I don't have any tumors.
Whoa.
But we
Okay,
didn't know about
scary.
it, right? So
No,
if you ever touched vermiculite, it's really cool stuff. Don't
but don't touch it. Don't touch
touch it.
it.
Don't
People
touch
don't
it.
touch it.
Uh,
Okay.
get it, get it
Okay.
tested.
Now I'm scared to go into any old homes. Thanks. What's the other one? I think radon, is that another
Radon's a big deal too.
big
So
one?
radon is uranium that naturally exists in the ground.
Yeah.
It's um, as it's sitting in the ground, it gives off a gas called
Yeah.
radon, and radon gas will cause cancer and eventually kill you, right?
Okay, so that's why nowadays well, since when are they putting in radon detectors?
I think in BC, I think it's 2018. I think 2013. Don't quote me on these. I'm just trying to go by
No.
memory. I think 2013, the BC building code said you had to have what's called a rough-in. So the
Okay.
system in place with a tube in the base with a cap on it.
So you should still, because I know before we built this home that has radon
Yeah.
detector in it, we went and bought a radon, just a standalone radon thing for where we were staying.
Yeah. So here's how it works. So the radon gas comes out of the ground,
Yeah.
and the new homes that are built like ours has a system where it captures that gas and it runs out a pipe through the roof,
Okay.
so it can't accumulate in our home.
Right.
Um, what you're talking about was a detector. There's a couple ways to detect radon. There's up in Canada here. There's a kit that you can buy. You put it in your house for a certain amount of time, then you send it to a lab, and then they give you a report. The one
Okay.
that we have is an electronic version of that, where you actually put the sensors in the home, and
Yeah.
it talks to your phone and tells you what the quality of the air, what the content of the air.
And not every city or place where people are across North America are concerned with radon. It's just certain areas are
Yeah,
higher.
you'd want to Google your area where you live and to see if there's a like our provincial government has a map of British Columbia that
Right.
shows the concentrations of radon throughout the province.
But radon is everywhere.
Yeah, more than likely. I'm not sure if there's any area that doesn't have it. There has to be uranium in the ground.
But the problem is that like, okay, when we lived in Vancouver,
Yeah,
was there radon
there's
problems
some
there
there. There's some
and
there.
more here?
There's more in the Okanagan based upon that
Yeah,
map. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Okay,
So
so
you'll
you
look
want
up for
to
that.
check for radon and know about radon because that will kill you too.
Yep. Yep. Eventually, it's not like a bullet. It takes
So
time, like asbestos.
it, well, it says, I'm just looking at, because honest guys, I don't know much about any of the stuff Terry's talking about except what he's told me before.
Mhm.
But I'm just using AI and it says radon gas is a colorless, odorless, radioactive, I don't like that word radioactive,
Mhm.
gas that can seep from the soil into your home.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
there you go. Bad.
So bad, and you don't know you're breathing it.
Right? Like both those two things you're talking about. And then I guess the next thing, which I'm just saying another, well, all these things you don't know that you're breathing, like mold.
Yeah. Sometimes with mold, you
At
can
least you
actually
can
see
see
it.
it.
You can see it, right?
Yeah. And mold is, you and I have talked about mold before.
Mhm.
But mold is behind walls, under flooring, in your windowsills possibly.
Yep.
And can we talk a little bit about mold? I
Yeah,
don't
for
know.
sure. You know what's funny? I shouldn't say it's funny, but there's just recently I was at a it was a manufactured home over in West Kelowna, and these people were getting bought out by a developer and they needed to move. So I was going to help them buy a new home because they're
Yeah,
getting a lump sum cash settlement
yeah.
for this home. So I walked into the home and it was quite messy inside. And I sat down and talked to the owners about certain things about what we're going to be looking for when we go buy them a new home. And mold came up. I said mold is quite a common thing in a lot of homes if it's not ventilated properly and other reasons why. And they said, "Oh yeah, because we have that." I go, "What? You have mold?" They go, "Yeah." She goes, and she pointed to the living room wall on the other side of the room, and there's black mold all over it.
Oh my
My goodness.
God.
So I got out of there sooner than that.
As fast as you
But people are
can.
living with black mold on their walls. Oh my
And
goodness.
that'll kill you too.
Um, I don't know if it's going to kill you. I have to Google that, but I know it's going to cause you some health issues, and some faster than others. Like if you're sensitive to black mold, you're gonna notice it, right?
You could have allergies.
Yeah,
Okay, it does say, sorry, I said death.
yeah,
It says it'll cause health problems. It's rare for it to kill you.
yeah.
But severe and long exposure could eventually lead because it's respiratory,
Yeah.
health complications,
Mhm.
and some infections.
Yeah.
So,
I saw
yeah.
them at home in Vancouver as well, where the renters in this particular townhouse never turned their bathroom fan on while they're having showers.
Okay, people. I
You're
did not. I'm going to
gonna
fess
admit
up
to
to
this?
my stupidity before I met Terry. We've been together a long time,
Mhm.
but I only thought the bathroom fan was for smells. I didn't, I grew up with no father that told me any of this. My mom didn't know about that kind of stuff. And when Terry and I lived together, he was like, "You should be turning on the fan." I'm like, "Why?" I did not understand that what it was doing. I asked me any IT problem, I'm all over it. So I think sometimes people just don't understand some
Yeah.
of this stuff. So turn the fan on.
Turn the fan on. Yep.
The
Yep.
fan, because
You
is
want to
that
get rid of humidity
sucking humidity out?
out. Yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
fans are very important. It's just not for smells.
Hmm. Yeah, you want to the humidity level in your house needs to be controlled. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's too low, sometimes it's too high, and when it gets too moist, like too high, that's when you have the potential of growing mold, right?
And is it probably, my guess is that any mold issues is worse in wet climates.
Well, the higher the humidity, because you can be in a dry climate, but you could have high humidity in the house.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So,
So
uh,
like rainy Vancouver or Seattle wouldn't have more mold issues than somewhere
not
like that.
necessarily, because if you're ventilating your space properly, your inside space, then it doesn't matter what's happening outside, right?
Okay. Okay.
So
So
in today's day and age, we have things called heat recovery ventilation systems like HRVs and ERVs,
yeah.
which we have in our house. We have an HRV in our house, and that's constantly moving air around. And we have a humidifier in our system, so it controls how much moisture is in our air. And then I think we have it set for about 40%, 35, 40%. So
Right.
the numbers that I've been told about is a good number for
For humidity.
levels.
Okay. Well, what about people who are in homes that, don't have all this fancy stuff?
Well, they more than likely you'll have a fan somewhere, like in the bathroom,
Yeah.
and more than likely you'll have a fan over your stove.
Yeah.
Those are mechanical ventilation systems. So they turn on and off based upon humidity, or you flip a switch and they turn on and they just
Okay.
suck the air out of your space to the
Okay.
outside. Now, a lot of these homes have what's called a humidistat. That's another controller like your thermostat, and you
Yeah.
just set it for 40%, and it turns these fans on and off
On
depending
and
on.
off when it
Yeah.
detects when it should turn on and off. Okay.
A lot of homes don't have a humidifier system where it's actually inserting or providing moist, warm air into the system. Some of them
Mm.
don't have that. We have that. Um, but a lot of homes don't. So the fan turns on when you have too much humidity based upon your setting, but it
Yep,
doesn't actually introduce humidity into the system, into your home.
got it.
And
So that's when people can buy humidifiers.
you can buy a humidifier if you find it too dry for you, and you'll feel that as a human being. If it's too dry, you'll be coughing and you'll feel dry, right?
Scaly skin.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Sure. So
Okay.
that's that. So the bottom line is that unless you're a licensed carpenter, contractor, or a licensed inspector, if you have these professional credentials, most agents don't. But
No.
understanding what you're selling is really, really important
If
because,
you go into a room and you see the black mold,
yeah,
you should be, if your buyers are thinking of considering that, they should know.
yeah. Or if you see a cracked foundation,
Crack
um,
foundation,
stuff like that, or you should be able to look at the roof and get an idea of what condition the roof is in. If you
right?
see, I always look to, because a lot of people do renovations, like you were saying, people just
Yeah.
take on renovations. If I see somebody, when you frame a door out, it doesn't
Yep.
have a nice trim on it.
Yep.
There's things called door casings, and door casings are really inexpensive for the cheaper ones. Some
Yep.
people, and they're cheaper than most baseboards. So some people will use cheap door casings and use
Yes.
them for baseboards,
Oh,
for
that's a
example.
sign.
That's a sign that
That costs.
yeah.
That's a
So they're
sign.
they're super price sensitive, and maybe they shouldn't be using door cases as baseboards because they look like crap as well, right? So
Right.
Um, so just understanding the different materials that are out there, because when someone's touting, oh, fully renovated and blah 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 blah, right? Maybe it was renovated by somebody who really didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
Best
Yes.
possible products ever, just to slap this thing together
Yes.
to make
I
it
think,
sellable.
this is really interesting for me. I think next podcast we're going to continue this. I think we should talk one more thing because it's just on top of my mind because um what's the pipes that Poly B?
Poly B and Kitec, yeah.
Can you talk about that? Because I don't know, that's not just here, is it? Is that
No,
around the
it's all over the place. Yeah. So these two particular products, Poly B and Kitec, Kitec, are
yeah.
pipes. You're gonna, if you're listening to this, Google them and get the
Is it
full
for your
rundown.
water?
But then they're infamous for being a product that has a tendency to leak.
What is it though? Sorry, Terry. What is it
Well,
for
they're
water
supply
pipes?
pipes. They're water
Supply
pipes.
pipes, which
Yeah,
is water?
which is water. So it's connected to all your taps in your kitchen, in your bathroom, wherever there's
Okay.
water coming
Toilets? Toilets?
to your toilets. Yep, yep.
Okay, so any pipe coming out of your house, if it's poly or high tech, high
Kitec,
tech, high
Kitec.
tech,
Yep,
that's bad.
it's bad. Um,
Okay. And sorry to interrupt. So continue. Why is it bad?
those particular products are known to be leaking
So at
products.
some point they break or leak and
Mm,
flood.
not necessarily all the time. They just have that reputation. They're more prone to it. Again, Google the details on it.
Okay.
Like for example, your mom's house
Yep. That's what I was
has
thinking.
poly B in it, and it was built in the mid '90s and
Yeah.
hasn't leaked.
Yeah. But that's a problem sometimes. And again, I'm just hearing conversations. Sometimes you're talking to other people.
Yep.
Sometimes it's requested that that's removed before the purchase or before the selling.
Yeah. So here in BC, what happens is a lot of the insurers, like when you want to
Uh,
get insurance for your house,
yeah.
some of them will not insure your home if it has poly B or Kitec in it.
So
Not
then
going
they're
to give you insurance
forced to.
policy. Yeah. Or they'll say,
Uh,
okay, we'll insure your home, but your premiums are now really,
ah,
really high because the risk, it's all about risk, right?
yeah. And is
So
it expensive to replace?
we just did one. I had a
Yeah.
listing. And I think it was a 2,000 square foot house. It was a rancher with a crawl space.
Yeah.
So the pipes are easily accessible. That one cost $8,000 Canadian
Well, that's not bad.
to replace all the pipes. Yeah.
Oh, that's not
Really good.
bad.
That's really good.
I
And you know
thought
what?
I thought you were gonna say it was like 80 grand or something. That's not bad.
No, so I just talked to a guy
Okay.
yesterday who has one of these houses as well, similar style rancher with a crawl space.
Yeah.
He got his buddy who's a plumber, licensed plumber, and he bought all the stuff and they knocked it out. I shouldn't say knocked it. They replaced all the piping in one day, less than one day, and he says it cost him about $2,000.
Okay.
That's with him and his buddy doing it.
Yeah, right, right. If they know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The other one was a licensed company, and the company charged them $8,000 to take the old poly B out and
Uh-huh.
put PEX, it's called PEX,
Okay. Okay.
PEX piping in.
Well, I find this fascinating. So I actually think there's way more things we could talk about.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh,
think we should talk
lots.
about that. So next time, here's what I want to talk about. You tell me.
Okay,
I want to talk about lead paint,
lead paint, okay,
carbon monoxide,
yep,
because I was just reading that somebody died from that
yeah,
on,
easy.
I don't know if it's true or not, my,
Oh no, absolutely. There was, I think it was in Victoria a couple of years ago. Some people, an elderly couple, just didn't wake up.
okay, so let's talk about at least these things, lead paint, carbon monoxide. I think you should get into more about
Yeah,
foundational issues. And then anything, I have tons of things, chimneys, and we've got lots of things we can talk about.
oh yeah, for
Let's
sure.
use Terry's knowledge and we'll talk more about homes and hazards at our next podcast.
Yeah, no,
Sound,
it's a
sound
good
good?
topic for sure because, like I say, a lot of agents who don't have the experience or haven't taken any courses or what have you don't quite understand the product that they're helping their clients buy and sell, right? So,
Right,
and,
right.
and we do rely heavily on our licensed people for that, but a basic understanding, like if you're able to describe how a house is built from the bottom to the top with all the systems, if you can just
Yeah,
go through if you can articulate all that, then you have a
yeah,
really good understanding of how it's put together, right?
right. Yeah.
But most people can't.
Awesome.
Okay.
This was awesome. I learned a lot today. Hopefully you guys did too. So we'll continue this homes and hazards next podcast. So
Yeah.
thanks for being here. If you're stuck or piecemealing your business together, let's get you where you want to be. You can book a call if you've got crappy systems and things aren't working. I can't help with a radon or anything like that. But you can go to agenttechmastery.com/applypod. It's a free call, it's complimentary, and it might be the best call you've ever had. Love to hear your comments. You can comment on our YouTube videos. That's where the podcast is, or just reach out and have a conversation if you're interested. So thank you so much. We'll be back in a couple weeks and we'll continue this homes and hazards. Thanks, Terry.
All right. See you
Okay,
later.
bye.
Bye.